Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Grow Your Tutoring Business with me, Richard Cowell. Today we're going to be looking at different business models and what you could include in your tutoring business. So let's get straight to it. What I'm going to do is just take you through some of the really obvious business models, and then we're going to talk about the pros and cons, and then how we can use each business model either on its own, or we could smush them all together to create a bigger and better package for our potential clients. Because what we really want to do is be able to offer something that widens the net a little bit. So if you've got a good idea about who your ideal client is right now, what we want to do is create a service like what I call our signature service for them. They're the ones that, if we're writing about our ideal client and finding out about our ideal client in the right way, one of the number one things our ideal client has to have is disposable income. And what we do is we then build our services around the success of that signature course. Once we've done that, we can start looking at other business models that we can just sort of attach into there. So let's start with the really easy business model, which is one-to-one tutoring. It's the most obvious place to start. It's what most people want, or in my line of running my tutoring business, it's what most people have asked for. And it was a really convenient way just to say yes quickly and to get the ball rolling in my business, to get monthly money coming in, recurring income, so that I could start to learn the trade, learn what works, learn what I like about the business and what I'd like to do more of, but also to just give me a good foundation of what I'd want my courses to look like, or what my program to look like in general. Now, one-to-one's super simple. You look at your week, how many hours do you have spare, and you create a timetable. So if you know like a Monday's a great day for you because there's childcare in place, or perhaps you know that evening is spare at the moment and you could tutor for 4 hours, and you can fit 3 one-to-one clients in there, great. And you could do the same on Tuesday and Wednesday and every day across the week. But clearly there is a bit of an issue. So it's easy to start, that's a big pro. One of the cons is that you will run out of time quickly, particularly if you're good and word of mouth starts spreading that the service you provide is amazing. But what will happen is you'll end up with a waiting list. And there's nothing wrong with a waiting list, but actually what we're doing there is leaving money on the table. So one-to-one tutoring is a great way to start. However, you will eventually run out of available slots. So what could we do next? Well, the next model we're going to talk about is one-to-many. So one-to-one, great way to start. Where do you move to next? Is one-to-many. Now, these things don't have to live in isolation in your business. So you could have an evening a week where you work one-to-one and a few evenings a week where you work one-to-many. Now, one thing that I'm going to be talking about all the way through this brief podcast is value. And one of the big blocks to us moving from one-to-one and then creating space for one-to-many is our feeling that our value drops. So the value that we bring to a one-to-one client is not the same as a small group. So that person or child or young person is coming to see you for their one-to-one tutoring, say for GCSE maths, will get a different experience of the 4 children or young people coming to see you for their GCSE maths. So in that small group, like, it's obvious that it's going to be slightly different. It's going to be a lower value compared to the one-to-one. And that's a bit of a problem, because particularly when we care so much about making sure children progress, we want people to really attach themselves to the tutoring and that experience, so it really accelerates their progress. And in a one-to-one, it's so easy to roll with the punches and really tune into what that one person needs. And it's less easy, I suppose. Not impossible, but it's not in quite the same way that we can do it in a small group. It's still effective, but there is a drop in value. And our pricing needs to reflect that. And the way that we go to market with it and put our copy out and the messaging around it also needs to reflect that. So thinking about not comparing the value of the one-to-one with the value of the group. Now, once you've sorted out your pricing between the two, this becomes easy for the parent. Make it really clear. I say for the parent, it might not be the parent who's paying, but make it easy to whoever is paying the bill that there is a, I say significant, it doesn't have to be significant, but there is some kind of compromise with the value. My homework for you this week would be to go and have a look at one-to-one services in the business world. So I know people who would charge £50,000 for their one-to-one service just for a day. And I know there are marketing experts that would charge thousands of pounds just to have 2 hours with you in the business so that they could help with your marketing message and branding and just to make sure everything's on track for you. You know, one-to-one is the premium service, but yet sometimes as tutors, we don't price it that way, or we don't put the messaging out that it's the premium service. So if you're a tutor that has been thinking about groups, what we need to do is change the way that we think about our one-to-one and make it super premium. We know there's a compromise in value. It doesn't have to be a huge compromise, but there will be a compromise compared to what you can do one-to-one and in a small group. There will obviously be some sort of a compromise there. And then the next step would be, do we want to go even larger? Would we like to offer a large group, which again has a compromise on value, but priced in a way that widens the net? So I bet there is a niche of families and young people who would love to be able to access some sort of support, whether that's GCSE, SATs, Year 6 SATs, 11 plus, something along those lines. And they've looked into tutoring, but it's just too expensive. They can't afford the one-to-one. Even the small groups are a little bit too expensive. It's out of their price range. But then someone creates this large group where, again, there's a bit of a compromise in the value, but the price reflects it, and it opens up the world of tutoring for them. You would need to be careful that you didn't give too much of your time away, because again, the value and the fair trade of price needs to come into play somewhere. And we're going to talk about pricing in a second. Well, let's talk about pricing now. So let's do GCSE. Well, I'm going to make up some numbers, but you'll see where I'm going with it. So with GCSE maths, if you're a GCSE maths tutor, you could charge £70 an hour for your one-to-one. You're going to make it super premium. Now, I know where you might be based in a part of the country where you couldn't charge that because you think that other tutors aren't charging it. So just a bit tongue-in-cheek with the numbers for the minute, but you'll get what I'm doing with the pricing. But you're going to position it as a premium product. £70 an hour, one-to-one GCSE maths. You're going to help that child move from a grade 3 to a grade 6 in 6 months. Then you offer your group, a small group, 4 people in that group, and you're going to offer the same value. You're going to do it differently, but it's a similar value. You're going to move them from a grade 3 to a grade 6, or to a grade 5 maybe. But you're going to charge £30. So that's more than the half price of the one-to-one. So we're positioning the group as that middle ground, as the affordable option. It's not it doesn't take away too much from the value, but there's clearly a compromise in play. So those families who can't reach to £70 a session, they would be more likely open to reaching to £30 a session. But from a business point of view, from a tutoring perspective, your time is worth a little bit more in the group than it is in the one-to-one. Your one-to-one time is £70 an hour, but if you can fill all spaces in your group, that's £120 an hour. And then we can do the same with our large group. Now, compromise on the way that you give the information across, but you're going to be able to, say, open it up to 10 spaces in your large group, which is £15 a place. but the way you set it up is different. It might be all online, it might be that you do a teaching input with a 20-minute application with then homework on top for the children then to take on, to do in their own time, that they could then bring back to the next session. But the way that you do it is done it in a way that everybody's really clear that your premium service sits above everything else. That's, you want me one-to-one, you pay the premium price. I chose £70 an hour. You can choose whichever price works for you. Your group is less than your one-to-one, obviously, because the value is going to be perceived as slightly less, and your pricing needs to reflect that. And again, if you want to make sure your net is wider for more clients, you can create a third option, which is a little bit more of a compromise in value, but the price reflects it, and also the amount of time that you give reflects that as well. They're your three main business models: one-to-one, one to a small group, and then one-to-many. They are the most used models in the service industry that I can share with you. We also have the workshop model as well. So there are some tutors out there, or tutoring services, that offer, rather than offering a one-to-one service or perhaps a predefined group at a specific time, they offer a workshop model, which is, say, on a Monday we offer Year 6 Maths and Year 6 English. On a Tuesday we offer Year 5 Maths and Year 5 English, and so on through the week. And it could incorporate GCSEs, it could incorporate Kent test or spellings or reading skills, whatever it is that you feel that you could go out there and support children and young people with, you could create it. And then people book onto the days that they want. So rather than book into that weekly idea of a weekly session, they can just book into the workshops that work for them. And you could attach to that some sort of a membership or subscription type payment model as well. Although that's not as common at the moment. I think it's starting to come out a little bit more in the tutoring world, but at the moment it's pretty much book into what you want, you pay up front, or you book in for a term in advance and you pay up front. So I offer 3 different business models for my potential tutoring clients. I have my small groups, I have a very small collection of one-to-ones, and workshops that people can book into throughout the year if they want. And that is what makes up the majority of my tutoring business. There is one more business model that I'd like to share with you, and that is the agency model, where you might not tutor at all, but you employ other people to do it. Or, I mean, we have to be careful now with the word employ because of the changes in legislation. So are you an employment business, or are you an agency? And so just make sure you're set up in the right way. But if you are going to employ someone and contract them in, make sure that your self-employed contracts are pretty tight. Okay, look, I hope this is helpful, and you've taken down some notes and a few ideas for how you can grow your business. If you are going to move into groups, because that's something in your strategy that you would like to move into, create the space for the group to grow. Your group doesn't have to be full up straight away. You're not a failure if your group hasn't filled up within the first week. You're not a failure if your group hasn't filled up within the first term. Just allow it space to grow, and then once word gets out there and you do your marketing and your messaging is consistent, your groups will be the thing to take over. Okay, hope it was helpful. I'll speak to you very soon. See you later. Bye-bye.